Having looked at different types of research design, the different ways of collecting data, either through primary or secondary research, and the different approaches or methods to collecting data for research, that's either quantitatively or qualitatively, it is important now to understand that these methods of collecting research information do not sit in isolation. Ideologically, the quantitative and qualitative methods may be different, but practically they are frequently used together in real-world research. In this slide series, we're going to take a brief look at what a mixed method approach actually is, the ideological debate in mixing methods, and then highlight some real-world research examples of methods that have been mixed and why indeed they have been mixed. So firstly, what do we mean by mixing methods? In its broader sense, we are thinking about combining qualitative and quantitative methods of research to answer the research question. Triangulation is a word that is often used to describe this. Triangulation means checking the results obtained from one type of research strategy with those obtained by another type of research strategy. So, for example, using a small sample focus group to obtain detailed qualitative information and using a questionnaire with a large sample to find more quantifiable results. Mixing methods can also be about using more than one type of quantitative method, so structured interviewing and structured observation, to collect data, or more than one qualitative method to collecting data, that is, say, for example, an observation and an unstructured interview. However, using more than one qualitative method or quantitative method of collecting data really only uses one type of research strategy. In describing mixed methods research, we are really talking about mixing methods across different research strategies, that is, mixing quantitative and qualitative research methods. The use of mixed method research is continually growing and is becoming frequent in its use in research. There are some who argue that it is a new paradigm for research, a paradigm being a set of beliefs within a particular discipline that influence what should be studied and how the research should be carried out and what the results and how the results should be interpreted. To think about this, we're going to take a brief look at some of the ideological arguments that sit within the mixed method debate. Now, there is an argument against using mixed methods when conducting research. This argument is based on the idea that quantitative methods and qualitative methods are based on different paradigms or a set of rules about what to study, how to study it, and how to interpret the results. Quantitative research is generally thought of ideologically as belonging to a natural, science-led epistemology, that is, theory of knowledge or way of thinking about the world. In particular, the key ideological position known as positivism. Positivism advocates the application of methods used in natural sciences to the study of society. Now, with qualitative research, it's generally thought of ideologically as belonging to a more interpretivist-led epistemology. So it's an alternative to positivism that is critical of the use of the scientific model to study the social world. There are differences between the actions of people as objects of natural science, and the subjective meaning of social interaction is important in understanding the social world. Mixed methods have been seen by some as the methodological third way, alongside or in between positivism and interpretivism. However, while this all sounds well and good, in practice, research methods are not as clear-cut as this. It is not really possible to say that a structured interview, for example, will always align itself to the scientific model. More than this, on a really practical level, if we actually allow research paradigms to be the most important thing that steers us as researchers towards choosing a particular method, then we become unlikely to be able to choose a particular method at all, and our choice of method is not generated by the research process itself and the content of our research as we go along. Good research is about choosing methods that are most appropriate to the research questions. Some questions are underpinned by positivist assumptions and others interpretivist. It is not often that a project will present itself with one research question that neatly fits along one particular philosophical way of thinking. The practicalities of conducting research will have a bearing on the choice of research methods. Resource constraints, that's both time and money, frequently play a significant part in the choice of research methods. It may actually be more desirable to conduct research into, say for example, the career choices of young people using focus groups or one-to-one interviewing followed up by a large-scale survey. But resource constraints may dictate that only a large-scale survey is possible. It may also be that other issues such as the skills of the research team also dictate what is and what isn't possible. In practice, qualitative and quantitative methods are very rarely opposed to each other. They are really tools which can be used in different ways. We may mix different methods within research to help us explore the dimensions and prevalence of a particular phenomenon through, for example, identifying extent and patterns of something using quantitative data and then exploring this further using qualitative data. We may also want to control and compare a particular phenomenon, so for example evaluating the effectiveness of taking part in a particular back-to-work programme. We may want to examine quantitatively a measure of the effectiveness of taking part or not taking part, but also explore the reasons behind any comparisons qualitatively. Further to this, using different methods are useful for gaining an understanding of differences or similarities between those different groups, as well as cause and meaning. So measuring what caused something to happen and then understanding what it actually means. An example of a mixed method approach to a piece of research is the Chicago Urban Poverty and Family Life Study. This was carried out in 1986 to investigate the effects of joblessness on an inner city. It comprised of 4 parts, so a large-scale sample survey, an open-ended survey of a smaller sample, ethnographic field research, and a study of employers in the Greater Chicago area. It included a supplementary, or what we call an oversample, of African Americans. It used open-ended questions that were organised around key themes, so themes around opportunity, occupational mobility, work experience, education and expectations. It also used case study research, so it did case studies with 99 informants and neighbourhood participant observations, and it did case studies of industry sectors and data on these sectors from company records and other sources, including depth interviews with senior company representatives. So in this example you can actually see a mix of all sorts of different methods and strategies. We've got everything from surveys to observations to interviewing. We're actually looking at cross-sectional research design and case study design as well, so it's a real mixed method study. When we're talking about mixing methods is of course not better than using one single method. More methods does not mean that the research will be better. Bad research is bad research no matter how many methods you use. The real things to bear in mind are what the aim of the research is, and therefore what the research questions are, what research design is most appropriate, and then following on from that, what methods will be best suited to answering the research question, taking into account the resources available and the skills of the research team. Choice of methods is about what's right, given the circumstances and the context, to answer the research question. Mixed methods is not an automatic right way of doing research, but it can provide a more complete understanding of a particular research phenomenon than using one method on its own.